Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video. And this one is one that I've wanted to do for a little while. It took me a little while to get things sorted, but many of you, because it was quite a popular video, may remember that I reviewed the NZXT H2 before. And it was a bit Marmite. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I didn't really build a lot into it. I didn't put much of the effort into it that I would normally do. I just want to clear a few things up, because basically I didn't put that review on the main website. Just made a quick review so that I could put my own personal thoughts across. And I honestly thought I was doing NZXT a favour by not going front page with it, because I still don't, to this day, think it's a very good case. NZXT took it somewhat personally, and they really didn't like me having a bad opinion of this chassis, and even attempted to kind of slur me on Facebook somewhat. They put a questionable comment up, which started a bit of a kind of like a flame war. But the problem was, by them actually, going public and saying, that they didn't really like my review because I had, bad opinions of it, all they did was made the video very, very popular, and it got watched an immense amount. Now, I didn't want to do it straight away because I wanted to get a clear head, but one of the things that I said at the time was I was comparing it with the Fractal R3, which, as far as I'm concerned, the H2 is just a rip-off of, and a bad one. And yeah, it didn't go down very well. A lot of people said that didn't know what I was talking about. So what I've gone and done is I've got a Fractal R3 in for review. The cases have got near on the exact same hardware in them, and we're going to do a side-by-side face-off review, and I'm going to explain every single one of the bad points just to concrete them and show you exactly what I'm talking about, and show you why, let's face it, the Fractal is cheaper, and in my eyes it's in a completely different league to the H2. And yeah, it's just my way of solidifying the fact that I really do not think that the H2 is a very good case at all. So you know from the get-go that it's not necessarily going to get liked that much. I will be straight down the line with every point. But what I'm going to do is, if I find something necessarily bad about the H2, because I've got the Fractal by the side, I'm going to explain exactly why. So yeah, and the best bit about this is NZXT did not know this video was coming. I've kept quiet. I made sure that nobody spoke to anybody else about it. I think NZXT pretty much hoped that I was going to get rid of this case and forget about it, but I'm back, and this one is going front page, and I'm going to be shouting very, very loudly about it. So this is a classic. Tiny Tom Logan will not be silenced just because someone doesn't necessarily like his opinions. So he's now back with a big chip on his shoulder because he didn't like some of the things that were said, to make a full-on video review and pretty much rip the black chassis a new one. So stay tuned, guys, because this is a personal one. Right then, guys, we're going to do this in the normal format that I normally would do, and pretty much just, go around, give you a good look at the cases, and then hopefully I'll be able to explain things a little better for you. But I'm going to start at the top and at the front. Now, you can have a look at the Fractal here. Headphones, microphone, power button. This is your power LED. You've got a couple of USBs and then an eSATA. On the NZXT, you've got your power and your reset either side. Headphones has got USB 3, which the Fractal hasn't. So it does pop the Fractal here, and it's got 3 USB 2s on the front, which again, that's one extra than the Fractal. And it also comes with a built-in fan controller. Now, basically, the fan controller, you have only got one spare slot inside if you want to add an extra fan. for these without kind of like reconfiguring the, you know, the way they're all wired up and stuff. So, do you know what I mean? You could have this as your extra fan for the roof up here, or maybe a CPU fan. Now the Fractal definitely doesn't come with a fan controller. It's got a thing that you put on the PCI bracket at the back, but it's, do you know what I mean? It's a lot of cables and stuff. It's quite messy. That I definitely don't like about the Fractal, and I really don't mind admitting it. Now moving on, as you can see with the Fractal, you've got it's quite a plain roof really, and with the NZXT you've got this hard drive dock at the top. Now hard drive docks, bit Marmite really, let's be frank. You either love them or you hate them. Me personally, I can see why people would like to be able to put hard drives in and out, but if it's not in your rig, why would you want to, you know, just keep dropping a hard drive in? You're not going to have a hard drive up there permanently. And to be perfectly honest, it's quite a plasticky cover, and it's not. I'm not a fan of this on this. Some cases have done it really well when they've kind of concealed it or made it a good part of the design. I almost think they've put a hard drive dock up here because they think they needed to, rather than, you know what I mean, they actually wanted to for the case. Just kind of feels a bit nailed on. But then again, I'm not really fans of hard drive docks at all. I much prefer a cleaner rig. Now, one of the things that I said before about the H2 was about this grill, because the grill, it literally is just a piece of mesh over the top. Well anyway, I'm not gonna kind of destroy it, but there's a circular hole underneath. You can see there's it's just one stamped hole. You've got the holes for the fans that go in, and then they put a bit of mesh over the top. That's their idea of a grill. And the reason why I was so kind of picky about this was basically because from an engineer and from a kind of design and cost cutting point, just stamping a single hole in the top and wanging a bit of mesh over it's nice and cheap. But when you look at the Fractal, it's actually proper hexagon stamped mesh. You've got 140mm and 120mm mounts, and yeah, like I said, it's that lovely kind of hexagon mesh. They are dust filtered, well they're blanked off from the inside, and there's exactly the same on the side, but what I want to show you, and I don't really want to go into too much depth about it yet, but up inside, both of those are blanked off, and there's sound deadening on them as well, and it's also in the front. Now just to show you what the sound deadening looks like, but we will come back to this in a minute, you've got like a plastic cover that goes over the entire like mesh, and then there's a thick foam section, but then the foam has also got a fabric coating over the top, giving it a really nice quality feel. Now that's on both of those up in the roof, but there's also a section above the optical bays as well, which is fixed to the case. So there's a lot of sound deadening in there, but basically now we've done that, you can see why that bit of mesh, and then this is their idea of a dust filter if you're not going to use it. It's just, yeah, it's such a cost cutting exercise in my eyes, it's unbelievable. It just feels really cheap and just kind of nailed on, whereas that, for me, especially considering what you've got to bear in mind is the H2, it's actually the more expensive of the two cases, only by a little bit, but considering one's meant to be a complete rip-off of the other one, you can kind of see where I'm going. But this just screams quality. The hexagon mesh has to be stamped and stamped properly as well, and like I said, underneath you've got the filtering and the sound deadening as well. So hopefully you can understand what I'm saying about these two bits now. But the next bit we're going to move on to is the sound deadening. So I'm going to put the cases side by side and take the sides off. Right then guys, sides off, and we're going to talk about the sound deadening for a second now. And basically, a lot of people laughed at the fact that I said that the NZXT foam, I'm going to move the light in so you can see a bit better, it did feel kind of like, I think I said 99 pence headphone foam. And it does feel that way. It's although it does cover the whole of the panel, and sound deadening, it's only on the side panels. If you have a look inside, there's no sound deadening anywhere else. And yeah, like I said, it is just a kind of a cheap feeling foam. And this wouldn't really be so much of an issue, but like I keep kind of reiterating that these cases are so similar. When you look at the Fractal, basically this is bitumen. It's a really thick, kind of almost like a tar-like substance. Adds an immense amount of weight to the doors, but the weight that it adds to the doors gives it a real quality, kind of thick, sturdy feel. And the bitumen is actually covered, if I can get the camera to focus on it, in a fabric as well. There you go, you can see it there. But that's all coated in fabric as well. Now, also on the side panel, as I showed you before, you've got the cover for the side panel fan, which you can fit if you want, 120mm or 140mm fan. But that's also got the sound deadening, really thick foam. I'd say this is at least twice as thick as the NZXT foam, but it's also covered in this fabric, which again just adds that extra bit of detail, that extra bit of quality, gives it a much nicer feel. The Fractal foam is it's not quite as dense as the NZXT, but like I said, it is a lot thicker, and you've also got that fabric on the top which matches everything. And the Fractal's got sound deadening right the way along the roof, including the top fan mounts. Now, moving on to the inside, I'm just going to grab, if I sit back, I'm just going to grab my ruler, because the layout of the inside was another bit of a bugbear with me. The NZXT, I'm going to move the side panels out of the way, but the NZXT has got a completely different layout to the Fractal. Now, the reason why I had beef with this, to steal a very bad kind of urban saying, and a lot of people didn't see it. Now, I know lots of people that have a lot of hard drives. Now, you don't put all of these hard drive bays in a case if you don't think people are going to use them. So essentially what I've done is filled the hard drive bays up on both cases. We've got two P67 rigs in there. This one is a UD4, that one is a UD7, this is a 6850, this is actually a slightly longer 6790, so this graphics card is actually longer than the other one. But they're both in there. This one's an AX850, got an AX1200 in there, but I'll get to why the power supplies are different in a second. And they've both got an HD14s and 8GB of RAM, sorry, 4GB of RAM. But if you have a look at the hard drives here, this is one of the things I was trying to explain. Yeah, alright, if you're just going to have one hard drive, it's really not going to make a lot of difference. But if you've got quite a few, and you want to put a fairly lengthy graphics card in there, you are severely limited because of the way the hard drives are. And if I get the ruler, you can get a maximum length graphics card in there with a hard drive at the end. You're probably going to be looking at 240 to 250 millimeters maximum. Not really going to get a lot longer if you don't have a hard drive in there. Maybe 280 at very, very best. And like I said, with all these cables and stuff, not only does it look messy, but it's really limits the airflow as well. And obviously with all the hard drive power connections and stuff, you can see that there's not a lot of room in there. So yeah, having a lot of hard drives in this case, really, with the way this is angled, it's not really the type of thing that you'd want with a big graphics card or anything in there. Whereas if you look at the Fractal, if I come back a bit, it looks a lot tidier because the hard drives are facing the other way, so all the cables are at the back. Now on neither of the cases have I actually attempted to fit all the hard drives in, I've just put the cables in there. But with the Fractal, you can near enough get a 300mm graphics card in. A 590 fits in this perfectly fine. The only graphics card I found that this doesn't fit is the 6990, which is probably the biggest graphics card on the market at the moment. That just doesn't fit in here. With the H2 590, yeah, it doesn't fit at all because of all the hard drives and stuff. You'd literally have to be very careful with your hard drive selections. Even to the point that a 580 doesn't really go in there either. 570, it's still a bit iffy. You're very, very limited if you have all the hard drives filled on this, and like, it's such a big feature of the case, you can't not bring it up, and that's why I was so kind of just a little bit disappointed with the way that they've done this. At the end of the day, the Fractal works that way. So yeah, it's just, I just couldn't understand why. Now while we're still talking about the hard drives, I'm going to pull both of the cases round. Basically, hard drives are in that way, but at the front of the case on the Fractal, you've got the clips here for the two opticals, and on the Fractal you've got little bays here. Now you do have to take and unscrew the filters here, and it only comes with one fan at the front, which is the lower one, and in the testing I only use that one fan as well. With the H2, if you open the door, you can see that you've got 3 optical bays at the top, and then the 2 fans. It does come with both, which I've used, and these fans are actually pretty good because basically they're hot swappable, and it's one of the features on this I do actually like. But also you have to get the hard drives out of the front, which means if you want to remove a hard drive, you have to take the wires off from the back, and then you just clip these and pull them out. I'm not going to because it's all wired in. Like I said, it does come with both the fans at the front, but it kind of needs both the fans, quite strangely, because if I close all these back up again, something I want to explain is that little gap there, and a small, we got another cutout on this side which basically runs down there, and a small cutout on the bottom of the door is pretty much all of the airflow for the front of that case, which is another big problem with this case. It's during testing, it does get starved of air, even with those front fans on 12 volts blowing absolute whistles through. Because we've got the hard drives in, because we've got all the cables and everything in there, it does suffer with airflow problems. Whereas with the Fractal, even with just one fan in, because it's got these vents right the way down the front, or down the side at the front, on both sides, it's much easier for the Fractal to get the air in the case. Now both of the fans are still dust filtered. Both of the cases are still dust filtered at the front, but it's just the Fractal has a better design to actually get air in the case. To the point where I would actually go as far as to say that the H2 is pretty much starved of air because it's significantly warmer, which I'll talk about in the conclusion. Both the graphics card and the processor in the H2 were a noticeable amount warmer than the Fractal, and that's even though that the H2 has got 2 fans in the front and the Fractal only has 1. So even, you know, with the fact that the Fractal, you know, you've only got that 1 fan and you can add extra, it still performs better than the H2 in a like for like test with the same graphics card. Basically what I did was swap the 6850 from one case to the other case for the temperature testing, and in both of the, you know, for the CPU tests and the graphics card tests that I did, the Fractal was always cooler. Now moving on, basically what I want to say is if you're going to use a large power supply in the H2, in the R3, you will run into problems, which is why I put the AX in here. I could have easily put it in the H2 and completely bypassed it and not mentioned it, but if you want to put a really long power supply in the R3, you will have to, there should be some extra one of these clips here, and I've basically had to break them off to get this very long power supply in. Most power supplies will be perfectly fine, but the AX 1200 watt is one of the longer power supplies on the market, so it's just worth bearing in mind that if you do want to use a bigger one, you will have to break these tabs off, and you won't be able to use that bottom fan. Some people might not mind, some people might find this a turn off, but it's still, you know, very easy. And one thing I will say with this is I've not used any cable ties at any point in this, and it still manages to be tidy. With the H2, as you can see, I've got a normal length AX 850 in there. If you did want to use a longer power supply like the AX 1200 watt, again, you are then going to come into issues with all your hard drive cables and stuff, and you really will have to go very, very careful, because the AX 1200 watt actually comes out to about here, and then you've still got to get the cables out the back. So with a big power supply in the H2, yet again you're going to be coming into problems with the hard drives in the front and all your cables and stuff like that. So that again is something that you're going to have to bear in mind, because these hard drives being this way round in such a small case really do create so many problems, which is one of my biggest gripes, and it's why I really don't like this. But what I'm going to do now is spin the cases around, and we're going to have a look at the back. Right then, on to the back side of the case. As you can see, I'll show you, the H2 actually does have quite a bit of room around the back, which is another reason why I was a little bit disappointed, because there is a good amount of room back here. So if they were to have the hard drives coming out this way, which I really think would have favoured this, especially with so many drives, but obviously they thought hot swap was more important. There is loads of room. I mean, look at the amount of room back here. If we go from the back of the hard drive case to the outside of the case, it would help if I turn my ruler around the right way, but to the outside of the case you've got 50mm there. If you look at the other side of the case, you've got over 20mm. There, about 25 in fact, by the time you take into account the end of the ruler. So there is quite a bit of room around the back, and plenty of grommets and stuff. So do you know what I mean? Round the back of this case, there really isn't a problem. Yet with the same amount of stuff in the Fractal, the hard drives all round the other way, everything fitted. I will admit, because I run out of SATA cables, there isn't a SATA cable on this top hard drive, but all the rest of them are plumbed in. If you stand there and have a look, which one looks tidier? Don't forget, same hardware in both of them. Fractal even looks tidier around the back. Now I've not used cable ties on either. It's just the cables are just there. The doors fit perfectly fine on both. So yeah. I mean, you've got two decent cutouts, that's fair enough. But one thing I will say with the NZXT is with the D14, it is very close, to the point where you have to put the backplate on and then push the pins through, whereas with the Fractal you can see there's plenty of room all the way around, not a problem there. So yeah, I'll leave you to make your own mind up. But another thing, if we're talking about cable tidying, is with the Fractal you've got this gap right the way down here, which is fair enough, you can get your cables through. You've got gaps all the way up here for the cables. All of these points are brilliant because you can stick zip ties through these, or go through and stick zip ties through. You can poke all your cables behind these to kind of get everything tidy. There's plenty of clip points if you want to use them to clip your cables up around all over the place. Admittedly, the NZXT has got these clip points as well, but the cabling options here are actually a lot more limited because the case is closed off, and then there are some cable routing holes here, but there's not really a great deal you can do with it on this. It's just because of the layout though. Whereas with the Fractal, like I said, where it's all open and clean, and you're going to be putting the hard drives there anyway, it just does look a lot tidier on the other one. And that's, don't forget, we have got a massive power cables and everything here for all those hard drives. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hard drives in there, all powered up, and pretty much all but one of them is got the SATA cable on as well. So there you go, that's the back side of the case. Well then guys, that is the Fractal Design R3 and the NZXT H2 side by side. I could go into even more depth now if I wanted to, by getting graphics cards out, showing you the limits with graphics cards, but I mentioned that anyway. But I could literally get them and show you how easily a 590, for argument's sake, slides into the R3, and how it's never going to go in the H2 if you've got a hard drive anywhere near it. Even to the point where you might even have to take the hard drive, the actual clips out to even try and get it in there. So yeah, it is a strange one, but it's something that I felt really did need covering. Now, something that I do need to stress is the thermal performance of the H2 is just, even with both those fans in the front, just doesn't cut it at all. Graphics card with a 6850 tested in both of them. The graphics card was up to 9 degrees hotter in the NZXT than in the Fractal, even though the Fractal only had one fan in the front, and the NZXT had both of them. And obviously having both, and they run at, everything was run at 12 volts anyway. And basically what it is the H2 is being starved because there's not enough air being able to get in the front. If you open the door, it gets much better, but do you know what I mean? That door is a feature of the case. You shouldn't have to open it to make it to work better, or at least work the way you would expect. Even with the D14 on both of them, with a 1155 2500K, the D14 even struggled in there to the point that it was between 4 and 6 degrees, depending on how long you left it and if you were testing the graphics and stuff like that as well, hotter in the H2, which is a massive amount. And like I said, it's just because there's not enough air getting in there. I mean, all the sound deadening on the sides and everything, it turns it into an oven, which is why you do need good airflow. Which, when you think about it, just goes to show quite how well the Fractal does work. Now, the NZXT is slightly more expensive with the layout. I mean, the powder coat on the NZXT is, do you know what I mean, it's questionable at very best. Obviously, do you know what I mean, I don't mind admitting I do like white cases, but with the lovely white smooth gloss on the Fractal, it's just absolute sex. But even if you gave me a black one, I'd go as far as to say that the Fractal finish is just so much better than the NZXT. The quality of the build, the way it feels, the way everything kind of clicks and slots into place, the weight that the bitumen sound deadening adds to the sides, just makes it all, you know, a much better feeling case. You can 100% build a tidier system in the Fractal, and even with one fan it's cooler than the NZXT, but if you add a fan in the front and a fan in the roof, again, you can make an amazing performing and still silent system. I used the Fractal in the Christmas systems, and I picked a Fractal on purpose, and the winner on the forums actually could not believe how quiet the system was. Even with the graphics and everything in there and everything ticking along, the only way he knew his system was on, until all the monitors lit up, was the fact that the light come on the front. You can make these absolutely whisper quiet. Now, I don't want to keep going over and over and over everything, but I honestly, me personally, think that the NZXT is just, it's not up to scratch in my eyes at all. For the money, there is much, much more out there that you can get. The R3 literally, I'm trying to find the words for it, but basically the R3 walks all over the H2. If you're in the market to buy something like the H2, you really should be buying the Fractal instead, because it's so much of a better case. And one of the reasons why, because I want to explain this, one of the reasons why I was so disappointed with the H2 was because I thought personally that the Phantom was a leap forward for NZXT. The Vulcan they did was a great little case. I was quite a fan of the Vulcan. When the Phantom came out, it looked like NZXT had turned a corner away from their questionable designs and, you know, even questionable build quality of the past, because let's face it, if you've been around computer components for a few years, you'll know that NZXT don't always churn out the most amazing quality stuff, and even the designs are kind of youthful at very best, and the Phantom was a much better case. And I was really hoping when I first heard of the H2 that they were going to, you know, take stuff that they'd learned from the Phantom and move forward with it and take the company, you know, another step further forward. But all they seem to have done is gone back to what they've done before, almost like, oh, we can build one kind of alright case, but you know, now we don't need to bother because people will just buy it because it's NZXT. Well, I'm afraid with people like me around NZXT, I'm not going to let you get away with that, and I don't care if you offer a lot of money for advertising. If you make a bad case, I'm going to tell you that you know what I mean, it's a bad case. And yeah, I really don't mind admitting it either. It's the way I see my position as a reviewer, and I'm always thankful for the people that watch my videos and read the reviews and everything like that, but the way I see my position is to look at a product, and I'm meant to be advising you whether you should be spending your hard-earned money on it. However you got your money, I'm here to guide you in the right way. Well, the H2, like I said, I used to have an amazing relationship with NZXT, and I'm not even on the Christmas card list at the moment. I don't even get PR emails anymore because of the way things have gone with the H2. But that's just run of the mill. If companies want to act like that, then that's perfectly fine. That just means that all of the other gold awards and everything that they've got everywhere else, just, do you know what I mean? Are they really worth it? And they've been worldwide, and I honestly cannot understand how anyone, and I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in particular, because I do actually have quite a few industry friends that have reviewed this case, and do you know what I mean? This isn't aimed at you at all. This is just a blanket thing. I don't honestly understand how you could even remotely anyone give this case an award. Because when you put it side by side with the case that it's so badly trying to imitate, you can see how the Fractal is just so much better. To the point where I'm here now giving the Fractal Design R3 a solid, well-deserved gold award, and I wouldn't have used this case in all of the systems that I personally spec'd. Before, I did Haley's rig in one, I did the Christmas systems in one, we did 2 in Fractals, and I also took a Fractal to the Gadget Show live with me. Now, that wasn't because Fractal just hand them out, it's because I honestly think that it's an amazing case. And I do not, you know, spec them for other people or take them to shows and stuff without them being absolutely bomb-proof, which is why if you look at all the systems at Gadget Show live, you'll see that they're all picked for their specific purposes. And the R3 was to be cool, quiet and extremely tidy. We actually displayed that system with the back panel off because it was so tidy around the back. So yes, Fractal Design R3 Gold Award. What award am I going to give the H2? I'm afraid, guys, you're not going to get one at all, because we don't have a booby prize. But yeah, sadly NZXT, I'm just back here to explain my feelings and my views of this chassis in depth. And I hope now you've seen the systems with hardware in, and I've sat them side by side and explained all the different points, that everybody else out there will now understand why I think that the H2 is substandard at best. But with a review that, or with a video that I've been looking forward to doing for a long time, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.